Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by the one, the only Mr. Tony Ortiz of 97 The Ticket, as well as WWJ950. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good, Casey. How are you?
Doing good, man. Okay, so we have a lot of interesting stuff. We got the draft coming up in a week for the Lions.
Mhm.
So what do you think about what the Lions could do at number 7?
There
Or
are so
maybe
many,
the others?
you know what? There's so many different ways they can go, Casey. I mean, they can actually draft somebody at 7, and there's a lot of it's easier for us to list the positions the Lions don't need help at than the positions they do need help at because they need help at a lot. But the overwhelming idea here, Casey, I think the Lions would love to trade number 7, would love to move down a little bit in the draft, still get their guy, but accumulate some extra draft picks that'll help with the rebuild that they're going through. And make no mistakes, even though Brad Holmes, the new GM, or Dan Campbell, the new head coach, won't say it, what the Lions are going through this year is a definite rebuild. So any extra draft picks they can pick up along the way are definitely important for this team to do. And that's why there's a good chance that they will trade out of number 7, although they have to find somebody else who wants number 7. And that's where the 6 teams ahead of them kind of make this draft very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think we already know who's gonna go at 1, who's gonna go at 2, who's gonna go at 3. I think 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, there's teams that want number 6. There's teams that want number 7. They're gonna be listening to a lot of offers. Draft day is gonna be crazy. And I can't remember a draft day that's been as crazy as this one's going to be.
I can't either, but you know what, Casey? If you know who's going at number 3, I'm telling you right now, head to Las Vegas and put your money down on it, because in the last month, Trey Lance has been a favorite of betting in Las Vegas. Now Mac Jones is the favorite. Justin Fields was the favorite earlier. No one has a clue what number 3 is going to be. The only people who know are the San Francisco 49ers, and they've done a good job of keeping that under wraps. So what they do at 3 could determine how this draft goes for 4, for 5, for 6, and then when you get to the Lions at number 7.
You talk about a lot of the big needs that the Lions need. I mean, there's a list of things that could happen. What could happen?
Well, let's see. They could take a quarterback at 7 if one of the quarterbacks falls, but then that puts a clock basically on Jared Goff, who they just acquired in that big deal with the Rams for Matthew Stafford. They could go with wide receiver because they desperately need a number 1 wide receiver after losing Kenny Golladay to the New York Giants. The defense was a disaster last year, Casey. So what they could do is they can go for a defensive lineman, they could go for a linebacker like Micah Parsons, or they could get some help in the secondary. Here's the problem. If they go defense, it's better to move down because the 2 best defensive players in the draft, Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State, and Patrick Surtain, the cornerback from Alabama, those are 2 guys who are really good players, but not top 10 players. You would probably draft those 2 guys around anywhere from 10 to 15. Taking them at 7 might be a little bit of a reach for both of those guys, even though I think Surtain and Parsons will probably be good NFL players. I'm not sure 7's the right place to take either of those guys.
So, I mean, what do you think the Lions' biggest need is right now? Because what do you think it's
the biggest need's defense. They need another pass rusher. They need some help at linebacker. They need some help at cornerback. That's the biggest needs for the Lions. But again, at 7, there's nobody in this draft that you would take that chance on. Maybe Parsons, maybe Surtain, but otherwise, no. When you look at the offensive side of the ball being at number 7, if you need immediate help there, I'd say their best bet is to go for either a wide receiver, like a Jamar Chase from LSU if he's available, or one of the Alabama receivers, Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. Or you could roll the dice on one of the 2 big offensive linemen, Penei Sewell out of Oregon or Rashawn Slater from Northwestern. Or, and this is the dream pick, Casey, if he's still there at number 7, if Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida, is there, you run that card up to the podium, you grab Roger Goodell, and you immediately drag him to the podium and announce that pick, because Kyle Pitts, to me, is close to what Calvin Johnson was when he came out of college. He's a guy who looks like, based on everything you see, Casey, that's a guy who looks like he could be a game breaker in the NFL.
So you talk about the Lions could move or trade or listening to teams because, the countless teams that want number 6, there's a lot of countless teams that want number 7. Do you think they move?
I do think they move. I think they move down to a team that's looking to get a quarterback. The one spot I'd look at, Casey, is Dallas at number 10. From everything I've read, Jerry Jones is in love with Kyle Pitts, and he wants to get a shot at getting him. 7 may be too low, but if the board falls in such a way where Pitts is still available, Dallas could move up and give you a king's ransom for the 7th pick. Another team that could move up is Denver at number 9, because they're going to be looking for a quarterback. So if Mac Jones is there, if Justin Fields is still there, maybe they move up a couple of spots with the Lions, grab that quarterback. And again, there you're talking about some extra draft picks that can help in your rebuild. So those are the 2 teams, Denver and Dallas, I would look at who could possibly move up to 9. And our old friends, the New England Patriots, whose draft, by the way, is being run by some guy named Matt Patricia along with Bill Belichick, they might be in line to move up to number 7 from where they are at 15 to get a chance at one of those quarterbacks as well.
Yeah, who knows what New England will do. That is the big question, because there's a lot of teams that are looking, to get a quarterback or get that steal. I think the thing is 3, 4, and 5 is really gonna it's up there, because who knows who's gonna go at 4? Who knows who's gonna go at 5? Then you get the 6 and 7. That's the big question.
There are 2 guys, Casey. There's 2 guys I'm pretty sure are going to go within the first 6 picks.
Yeah,
and that's Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. They're going, but I think the other 2 are going to go. I think Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase are going to be top 6 picks. After that, you could throw darts at the big names, and you could be absolutely right with those names. But I think those 4, Lawrence, Wilson, Pitts, and Chase, are top 6 picks, no matter who's picking up there.
Yeah. And then as we go later into the draft, what can you do? I mean, yeah, the first round's obviously the most important round because you want to get that big guy. But what the second round, the third round, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, what could happen there?
If you're the Lions, first thing you need to do in some of these later rounds is you're probably going to try to draft a young quarterback to develop behind Jared Goff, or who could eventually take over for Jared Goff. So you might be looking at a 2nd or 3rd rounder in that position. Kellen Mond from Texas A&M is a guy you might want to look at. The kid out of Stanford, Davis, is another guy you might want to look at in the 2nd and 3rd rounds if you're the Lions, somebody that you can develop. The Lions are going to need some wide receiver help. This is a deep draft for wide receivers, so the Lions should get some help there. This is also a decent draft for linebackers, so I think the Lions can get some help there in the later rounds. The one thing you're probably not going to get if you're the Lions in this draft, I don't think you're going to get much help in the secondary. I don't think this is, based on everything I've read from the stuff from guys like Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, it doesn't look like this is a deep draft in the secondary, Casey. So if you're the Lions looking for some secondary help, I just don't think you're going to find it in the later rounds like you might in the early rounds.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting show, because we know who's going to go at 1 and 2, but really everything else is the big question. What surprises do you think might happen that maybe we don't know about?
Ooh. I think the 49ers are going to take Trey Lance at number 3. Just the hunch that I have. I think he's the guy over Fields and Jones that's going to go. And to me, I think the Cincinnati Bengals at 5, everybody's got them with Penei Sewell from Oregon, the big offensive tackle, because they feel like Joe Burrow needs some help being protected on that line, which was horrible. I think they're going to go for Jamar Chase if he's there at 5. I really do. I think they're going to bring in his former teammate to give him some help at the wide receiver core, and he's the guy who's eventually going to take over for A.J. Green. So I think those are 2 surprises. And just looking at my mock draft here, I think the 3rd surprise is Denver is probably going to end up with Mac Jones from Alabama as the ultimate replacement for Drew Lock, who has been so up and down. But I think Denver is going to get a quarterback in the 1st round. I know a lot of people have them going another way. I just think this is too good a draft for Denver to not grab a quarterback of the future, considering how up and down and how disappointing Drew Lock has been at this point in his career.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. All right, Tio, thank you so much for talking some draft stuff, and it'll definitely be interesting next week when this all goes down.
Casey, don't hold my feet to the fire on this one, because I could probably be wrong. My track record on drafts, I'm pretty wrong on the top pick, so I'm trying, but I think this is going to be, you're right, a very interesting draft, and I'm very curious to see how this all shakes out after the first 2 picks.
Oh, yeah.